we should be thankful to CSC for giving this opportunity for the Hayleys to make this presentation. So we'll straight away move to the slide presentation. So I would like to present this first slide, giving dynamics of a very complex organization. As it says, it's a well-diversified investment portfolio. Hayleys has 16 business verticals. It started about 144 years ago as a coin trading company. And as of today, we have that coin trading business, but in completely different scale. It started as a very small business, but it has grown to a very complex product. Now, today we are supplying coin-based product to companies like Johnson Control, which produce the car seat for the high-end cars. And our geotextiles are sold all over the world for complex bank restoration projects and so on. So then lately we have moved to different products like value addition to coir fiber, value addition to rubber. So most of these products were abundantly available in local market, and our core has been the value addition and value addition for the export market. And over the years, these companies, especially these three companies which produce products for the world market by way of value addition to the local raw material, eco solution sector, Hayleys, which is producing activated carbon from coconut shell based charcoal, and Deep Product, which produce rubber gloves from the local rubber plantations, has grown to world-class companies, and they command large market leadership position in the world market. And a lot of people ask us, what's our core business? In fact, we don't have a core business. All 16 business verticals are core businesses. And we consider these verticals on one scale. That is, with whatever the market that we are in, whatever the business that we have, we will look at for two things. One is the control, that is business control. We should have the controlling stakes. And the other thing, that we should be in the leading position in the market. Leading position in the sense that either we should have the largest market share, or we should be on the top three spots in the market in terms of market share. So this is the kind of criteria that we are looking at business. And we have a flat structure where each sector is represented by a managing director. This managing director's collective is a key governing body, decision-making body, which is called Group Management Committee. And all the managing directors represent and group decisions are taken by this Group Management Committee, which report to the Board of Directors. So if you can move into the next slide. So because it's a large, well-diversified business portfolio, how do we manage it? We look at 3 dimensions. That is short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Short-term, we look at liquidity, which should support our day-to-day operations. In the long to medium-term, we are looking at business growth in terms of risk, return, and growth to ensure that long-term sustainable profitability is maintained in the long term. When we look at short-term liquidity, most are traditional business, hand production, purification, eco solution, and some part of transportation sector, which actually one of the earliest business which has grown to Sri Lanka's largest transportation company. And those are generating profit and liquidity to support our short-term aspirations. And then the other business, which some part of transportation and then agriculture and plantation, which are supporting our medium term. And for long term, we have look at the country's growth prospects, and we have invested recently in some of those. Those are for the long term sustainable profitability. Can we move to the next slide? So I'll give a brief overview of the sectors. Eco solution is our first business, that is adding value to the core products, and we command market leadership position. I think we are the largest export of coconut fiber-based products in Sri Lanka. Hand protection, as you all know, that we command 5% of the global demand for household and industrial gloves. And there are a lot of interest about the hand protection sector because of pandemic. And we understood that, it's a good time. And we went on, expanded the capacity. We look at what's happening with this COVID demand slowdown. And we looked at certain areas where we should expand when COVID demand slow down. Those sectors should be taken. Likewise, we look at certain areas like electrician, glove. When the economy picks up, the demand is high. And then we have looked at sport glove. Our latest entrance was sports glove. So likewise, they have lived through at least 3-4 product life cycles. Everywhere they have excelled and remain high. So they are always look at the R&D. They invest in R&D and try to remain in the business as a leader. So their leadership position has been maintained quite long period, around 4 or 5 decades. Same as the lubricant sector, they are also global leader, and they have about 14% market share in the coconut activated carbon industry, and it has gone and expanded its production into different countries. Like we have operation in Thailand, we have operation in Indonesia. So currently we produce 50% of our requirement in Sri Lanka and 50% is outside. And we have invested in marketing network around the world. We have operation Europe, North America, and Japan, Australia. So and it's fairly extensive distribution network. Textiles is a relatively new entrance. This is about now second decade. We have just completed second decade with textile industry, and it struggled actually for some time, but lately we have understood that it required certain effort to go with industrial value chain and develop products for these global brands. And today we are the largest fabric manufacturer, Hayleys Fabric and South Asia Textile, which we have acquired last year. And we produce about 5 million meters of fabric per month. That is quite sufficient to cover 3 times Sri Lanka's coastal line. So that's the kind of product output that it produced. And construction material segment is again a leading manufacturer of aluminum extrusion. We have about 50% market share. We have fairly large capacity. Actually, Sri Lanka's aluminum extrusion industry has fairly large capacity. All 3 peers together. Of that also, we have about more than 50% market share and 50% capacity. And these are the manufacturing. And I in fact want to mention earlier that Hayleys is a proxy for Sri Lanka's economy, and it represents all 3 business sectors, all 3 segments of the economy: agriculture sector, industrial, and services. So agriculture and plantations, we have 2 plantation companies, Cannon Valley and Talawakale, and we generate about 4% of tea production in Sri Lanka and 4.5% rubber output. In agriculture sector, we have Sri Lanka is one of the largest integrated agriculture company, and Sri Lanka's largest processed fruit and vegetable export. In tea export, Mabruk tea is the 5th largest tea exporter in Sri Lanka. In fact, Mabruk tea was insignificant for about 10 years ago, and they have quickly risen to through the time and expanded. And today it's started 5th largest player. Martin Bow Hayleys is again a specialized tea extraction company, and like our original principle, core is adding value to local raw material. This is produced from the what is known as waste tea. We extract tea powder and tea aroma, and it's a joint venture with Martin Bauer in Germany. So next, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So the third sector is service sector. And transportation logistics is one of the earliest businesses at Hayleys, and it started as a small transport company, and today it has grown to one of the largest Sri Lanka's transport company. And it is an integrated player. We are not limited to one segment. We are in almost all the entire transportation value chain. We are in shipping agencies. We have warehouse and distribution centers. We have fleet networks. We do construction logistics. We have the largest warehouse in Sri Lanka, and in fact, the largest distribution center that we have is size of inside that we can park 4 380s. That's the size of warehouse that we have and we are in the we are expanding that distribution center now. Apart from that, Hayleys Advantage is the largest floating craft owner in Sri Lanka, with range of floating craft from tugs, and Sri Lanka's largest tug, if there's distress handling tugs, owned by Hayleys Advantage. And then we have container carriers and bulk carriers, and we offer a range of product services to Sri Lanka ports and the maritime players around the Indian Ocean. In leisure sector, we have one resort, one city hotel, and 6 resort properties, including one in Maldives. And consumer and retail, you all know that Singer Sri Lanka was acquired by Hayleys in 2017, and it is, I think, probably the largest, one of the largest acquisition in Colombo Stock Exchange. And Hayleys owns about 90% of Singer, and Singer is the market leader in consumer durable industry, with about 400 outlets covering entire landmass, market commanding leadership market position in the consumer durable industry, with a fairly decent local production based in refrigerators and washing machines, and some other items like water motors and washing and sewing machines and so on. So BPO is a new entrance. We in fact started it as a service provider for the group, and then we went on selectively sourcing some BPO clients, and it has grown to a fairly large BPO provider, and giving some niche services to some international clients. And projects and investment side, we have fairly large exposure to renewable energy. We have about 50 megawatt installed capacity in renewable energy. We have 3 solar projects, so 1 solar projects, 3 wind projects, and several hydro projects. And engineering side, we have in fact, Fenton is also again another largest and oldest company in Sri Lanka, and which was acquired recently about 5 years ago. And it has grown to a leading electrical mechanical engineering company, and one of the largest solar power installer in Sri Lanka. Please move to the next slide. So as I said earlier, none of our business brings more than 20% of revenue or profit after tax. So it's truly a well-diversified company. The largest being transportation, logistics, and consumer, but these mixtures have changed from one year to another. But these sectors represent fairly large exposure. But these 16 verticals in different time contributes differently. And today, it's the largest contribution coming from consumer, retail, and transportation. Earlier, it was from hand protection and purification. So likewise, but it's a truly diversified company. In different time, different companies perform better than the others. Can we move to the next slide, please? So last year was a significant year, and in fact, we reported the best ever turnover and profit after tax in 2020. And this year, we in fact grow 40% of our revenue, 40% growth of our revenue over the previous year, and 100% growth of profit after tax over the last year. So you see that we are in a fairly high growth rate. So almost all the companies have reported turnover growth except power and energy, which is because of these are mature power projects and their power generation is at mature stage now. Can you move to the next slide? Yeah, so profit after tax, as I said earlier, has doubled from last year, which was again the best ever in our history. So we have seen growth in almost all the sectors, even though hand protection and purification sectors have shown lesser growth. In fact, it is because of this accounting way. Otherwise, and because exchange gains are recognized separately. Despite that, operational, because it is also part of the, since they are export companies, it's a part of their income, and cost base has also adjusted. So we have seen this growth is across the board and very broad-based growth rate. And so one thing I want to highlight here, that since we are a very diversified portfolio, so our business risk is well diversified from portfolio perspective. And can you move to the next slide? So because of that, we can take a slightly higher financial risk. So you have seen that there have been discussion even about Hayleys leverage. So that's one reason that we have a comparatively higher leverage, because our business risk is low, so we can take extra financial risk. So if you look at quickly look at numbers, last year we have recorded a profit tax of 28.1 billion. Our fixed asset, our total assets remains about 243. And I'd like to emphasize on a few factors that we are looking at in terms of financial risk, three parameters: debt to EBITDA, debt to equity, and equity to total assets. So these numbers where we are because of our growth and investment, but we have done during the COVID time, and when there was a lower interest rate, we understood that it is not going to last forever, and it's time to invest. So we expanded all our businesses. We went on capacity expansion, and we went on acquisitions, and most of these were debt funded, and so because of that, these numbers have gone up. But so over the, as I said earlier, our portfolio management report, over the medium to long term, we try to arrive these numbers to a desired level. We can move to the next slide, please. So I'll, interest of time, I'll move to the last part of my presentation. And so Hayleys is based in mostly industrial, and we have to have the entire system running. We have to have the people, and transportation system should work, the port should work, energy should be there, people should be able to come and go, report to work. So this entire system has to work for us to function properly. But we have seen we have to look at the short-term challenges, largely, the US dollar shortage in the banking system with the financial crisis that we are going through. And then as a result of that, we have seen some disruption to the power and energy supply, especially, unavailability of fuel, so which is an essential part for the people to come and work in factories. And then there was a free float of exchange rate. As a result, that the exchange rate has depreciated recently. We saw that because of policy intervention, the interest rates went up rapidly. And prior to that, we have seen runaway domestic inflation, and our manufacturing cost is rising. And in terms of, since we are a global export company. From the global perspective, also we see that there's subpar growth, and they talk about global recession coming in. So the short-term strategies that we have done, most of these things we had expected that we were seeing that the crisis is coming in. So we prepared ourselves as part of our long-term journey. So we in securing because we have large import base, in securing the dollar sorted, we have gone and expanded our export base, so that we can't individually fight, but the country will have export income and US dollars. So, and then in terms of securing our energy supplies, we have gone and invested in different technologies. We have expanded our capacity. We have expanded our storage to face intermittent disruption in energy supply, and we have gone and installed renewable energy and rooftop solar, and we have in last 2 years we have installed about 10 megawatts of rooftop solar on our factory roofs, and in fighting the tight liquidity in the banking system, we are currently working on improving our working capital and preserving cash. Since we have done most of our investment when the interest rates were low, it's a time for consolidation, and most of this acquisition, as I said earlier, was funded by long-term fixed rate debt. So our pressure on the interest rate from that perspective is low. So likewise, so we have expected some of these short-term challenges and issues, and I think we better prepared for the short-term challenges. And the next one is long-term issues that we are seeing. If we can move to the next slide, please. So long-term, what we see that Sri Lanka is in, since we are more of a manufacturing company and our factories are in Sri Lanka. So what's happening in Sri Lanka is pretty important. So what we are seeing that Sri Lanka is in a crisis at the moment. So macroeconomic and political stability is one of the challenges. And then there's we have seen, since we have gone through different policy regimes in terms of macroeconomic policies, tax policies, and the government policies. There are a lot of policy inconsistency. Policies are changing rapidly and quickly, abruptly. So without time to adjust for those. So likewise, those policy inconsistencies are real long-term challenges. And the Sri Lanka's competitiveness. Competitiveness means in the international competitiveness of Sri Lanka as a whole. So what the strategies that we have adopted in fighting these and overcoming these things, and since we have invested heavily during the COVID period, we are in the process of consolidating. And future, what we are doing, in fact, we have already started it, and expanding our network marketing and distribution capacity in our key markets like North America and Europe. We have gone to France. We are largely in Italy and UK and those core markets, and then we have gone to France. We have moved to Poland. Likewise, we are expanding in our markets. Other thing that overall we look at diversification, because of one disruption to one location should not disrupt our value chain. So we have gone and invested in factories in different locations, and we have set up our distribution centers in across the Asia. So likewise, we are moving close to raw material bases. We are looking at the countries like Philippines, Vietnam, Bangladesh, where there are raw materials. So we want to go and establish bases, production bases, and then supply chain diversification and going and moving to market. So those are the kind of strategies that we have adopted in the long term. long run to overcome the challenges that we see in Sri Lankan landscape. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation, and thank you.